Okay, I think we're ready here. Let's turn off that and we will get rid of my opener. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's June 26, 2026, and we are back after a 4-day break while working on an app migration and website considerable update, and just taking a bit of time off from doing the live streams to kind of get hazardscape.com and our all of our tools and information upgraded, which I'm going to do a quick walkthrough because we've finally released a pilot of a common operating picture for small and remote communities, especially Indigenous communities. And it's going to be a game changer for communities that need the same kind of tools that big organizations have, like the US military, like the Canadian military. But this tool is going to be accessible by community, hosted and developed in Canada. It can be owned by the community, run on their own data servers, and it collects community data through lands management teams and through emergency management coordinators. And it's really an off-grid communications network for communities that are concerned about data sovereignty, their culture, their stories, their sacred knowledge, their sacred land, and where those things exist, not only in the natural world and the physical world, but within the spiritual realm as well. And so I'm going to be demonstrating that really quickly here as we get through our daily situation report. But I want to start off first by thanking a couple of, they're friends now, and it's been an evolving partnership, but they've allowed and helped Hazardscape conduct these lives. They've sponsored our Indigenous Emergency Management Coordinator training program, and they're also helping develop some of the other tools and assessments that you see on our website. And so I just want to start off by recognizing Kyle and his team at All About Abatement. It's First Nations owned and run. All About Abatement. They do mold abatement, hazardous materials testing. They do lead abatement, vermiculate out of attics. They do any kind of toxic hazardous material assessment during interior demos. They are sponsoring all of this. And if your nation, either post-disaster, so post-flood or post-fire, even if it's a smoke event or doing renovations, if you need a hazardous materials assessment, mold assessment, anything removed out of that area, contact Kyle and his team. They do fantastic work. Kyle, being First Nations himself, he understands what it's like on reserve and off reserve, and they're helping to develop what I'm about to show everybody here. And then through their reconciliation strategy, I also want to recognize and thank Premier Fire and Flood. So through their reconciliation strategy, they are also sponsoring us, and they provide water restoration, fire restoration, leak detectors. They have a staging truck ready to go with equipment like humidifiers, fans, heavy water extraction. It's a 50-foot trailer that is staged in Edmonton. And if you are a small community that doesn't have restoration services en masse at scale, Premier is ready to go. They've got offices in Whitecourt, Saskatoon, and they work a lot with the Treaty Nations, especially on schools, band offices. So thank you to Premier Flood and Fire for their sponsorship. And I'll also say that disaster restoration planning, we do a lot of wildfire and flood response planning. Communities don't do enough disaster restoration planning. That is the next response. So thank you to them. And again, thanks to Kyle at All About Abatement for their sponsorship. So to step right into this, the drought in Canada is amazing, because regardless of all the rain, if you live in Alberta, you experienced that rainstorm last weekend, and you go out and walk outside today in the parks where I was walking, there was pooling water, standing water in the parks on the grass, but today it's gone. You wouldn't even really know that there was a lot of rain. And if you look at today, just 4 or 5 days after, look at the fire risk in Alberta. And it just, the drought, that just goes to show you how bad the drought is in this country. Um, it 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 didn't even make too much of a dent in terms of lasting fire risk reduction. And if we look at even the fine fuel moisture code for much of the country, even the fine fuels at the bottom of the forest floor still not even registering as totally saturated. Now, a lot of central Alberta is outside of the forest protection zone, so there's not technically a lot of forest within this part of Alberta, but regardless of that, the fire risk is still really high. So just quite amazing. And then the Northwest Territories, as it has over years and years, just with the snowpack melt, the permafrost melting, the early snowpack, the darker parts of the land being exposed for longer, soaking up that solar radiation, is just at, again, an extreme risk through so much of the Northwest Territories. So much of Canada, and then as we look at El Nino coming in, we can just start to see how that band of heat that is, tagged as super El Nino is really pushing that hot weather up through the US. I think we're going to start to see, you can see how it's reacting in Europe, where they're having a massive heat wave there right now. But across much of Canada, you can see where that heat is today. So absolutely incredible. And again, even with all that heavy rain, we did see quite a bit of flood cautions, advisories come up, and this is why, right? If you look at the ground across much of this central part of Alberta, you can just see where the water levels had gotten spiked over the weekend, and they're going to increase again as we get that rain that's coming for this weekend. And you can even see in Edmonton on the North Saskatchewan, highest river level in more than 40 years is expected for this coming in the next few days. So major river systems are starting to creep up. Even the areas where we've seen a lot of small creeks and rivers. My cat was on the oven. You can see just where everything is flowing and how that rain has impacted much of the country, especially in the West. So definitely not, it's just, yeah, to me, it's just amazing how we can get that much saturation, still have a high fire risk, and we're still seeing this late after the spring melt, the water's rising. In terms of weather advisories, again, it's just this multi-layer. Up north, we've got a heat advisory again. Temperatures between 29 to 31, basically in the Arctic, subarctic area of Canada, this part. And then in this part of the Northwest Territories, wildfire smoke, poor air quality, and we'll look at that in just a sec. And then down here, special weather statement, 40 to 7 millimeters of rain possible. So the country, Western Canada, is just really split in this heat wave in the north into the Northwest Territories, and this sort of cooling trend with heavy rain in central Alberta. The weather patterns are just nutty. And then over in Eastern Canada, down here, we've got a severe thunderstorm watch for near Ottawa, or sorry, Montreal, Drummondville. So those are the live weather alerts. If we look at those air quality warnings, we can see where that's all coming from. And it's basically, if we take a look at the current wildfires, this map a week ago was fairly sparse for what's been going on, leading into the wildfire summer. But today, like, you can just see how across this band, it's just exploded with fires. A lot of them here updated in the last day. So just incredible how this is all. And then, you know, when we're watching that fire smoke up here, this is where those warnings are. So if we zoom in kind of around Vicar Arm, McTavish Arm, Great Bear Lake, if we take a look and match that up, you know, here's where a lot of that smoke is coming from. 2,900 hectares. We got 17,000, 8,500. So that one there, about 17,400 hectares. That's what's really driving these plumes. So that air quality warning up in the north, already being flagged as a weather alert. But again, even a week ago, the smoke plumes that existed, very, very minimal. But today, it's this week just increased. So as we watch the fires, the wildfires develop in Canada based on the wildfire risk, you know, this little portion of Canada, us in Edmonton and Alberta, we're seeing some nice weather, some rain, but the rest of the country is really just primed to ignite. So very, very telling. If we take a look at, we'll go to kind of the rain and thunder, and we're only going to be able to get a little bit out here. We're going to go, this is the system that's moving in for Alberta, Edmonton region. You can kind of watch it track here as it moves west, northwest. Well, sorry, I guess it's moving west to the north. It's coming out of the east. And it's going to hit along Regina into Manitoba. And you can just see the lightning strikes there that are predicted. That's kind of the major concern as well with how dry it is. So these weather systems just kind of continue to hang around and swirl around into southern central Alberta and Saskatchewan. So quite incredible system that's being driven there. As we take a look at where the low pressure system is coming from, you can see down here in the states, or the central west states, that low pressure system is just hanging around, and that's keeping everything in kind of this border, while everything outside in the high pressure system is causing that heat. So not 100% sure what's driving that low pressure to kind of sit there. I imagine if we look at, let's look at the satellite. Let's go back to the next hour, see if it loads here. It's probably a little data heavy. Let's try refresh it. Yeah, it might not load while I'm streaming because it's quite a big map. But we'll see. Now we'll go back to Prairie WX. So yeah, just absolutely incredible. Kind of here's where that special weather statement is again, and you know, the heat up there. So just a lot of different bits of weather happening at once. But again, most of the country here, if we go back to the temperature readings, very, very warm. But that low pressure system off into the central west is keeping the weather a little bit more unstable. And then here we're getting into today. Let's go to about, we'll go to about 3 p.m. 26, 23. Look at that, up in the north, 25. Just so warm in those lands. 27 in Yellowknife today. So heading into the weekend, this is Saturday. That low pressure system is going to keep Alberta wet and cool with parts of BC, but that high pressure system, you can see El Nino is, and that warm weather, that's where it's coming from. It's just coming around that low pressure system up into this high pressure area, and it's just going to keep the heat on and on and on through the whole much of the weekend. So if you're looking for nice hot summer weather, head to Northwest Territories. Like this is climate change. When you're looking at going to Yellowknife to get sun and to sit on the beaches of the Great Slave, then by Wednesday, we're getting into some major heat again in the east. So that El Nino is now just pushing up and starting to impact Eastern Canada. So this weather danger, this fire weather index, especially in the east, is going to escalate. I would predict by this time next week, there's going to be a lot of dark red in Eastern Canada based on the temperature trend and forecasts. And again, little to no precipitation. If we go and take a look at if we go onto the Hazardscape app and we go into the resource library and we pull up the Thompson River weather outlook that they have for June 27th to July 2nd. This is the drought, but that's as of May, so we're not going to pay too much attention to that. Here's the low pressure system that I was talking about. I like this map a little bit better. You can see it hanging over much of this portion of the west while that high pressure is just driving in that, El Nino heat into the east. And so that's going to cause that rain that we're seeing in Alberta and the fires and everything through the east. And here's the lightning density. So based on the predictions for lightning that we saw in the other map, this kind of validates it. And we cross-reference that with the fire risk, definitely going to probably see some sort of lightning starts there. Where did my Thompson's River University go? There it is. So yeah, just incredible. This is the precipitation amounts forecast for June 28th to the 26th. You can basically, this just basically is telling you, you can see these patches here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, where it's going to be quite high. And then, much of the north into Hudson's Bay area, like just absolutely nothing. So an incredible fire weather outlook for much of Canada as we see these starts just, almost triple to quadruple over the last 7-8 days. And, that's all in the forest protection areas. Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba there, those are all sort of prairies, grasslands, everything here through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, thick forest. That is just where that heat is penetrating and drying out those fine fuels at the ground floor. So just prime for burning. One lightning strike, a cigarette, anything can really cause havoc. All right. So once again, this situation report, I want to quickly again thank it. It was brought to you by First Nations owned All About Abatement, and I'm going to go through our new map really quickly. So thank you to Kyle and his team at All About Abatement for sponsoring our lives and helping us out with this. If you need any type of hazardous materials assessment, asbestos removal, lead removal, whatever it is, give them a call. And same if you're experiencing flooding, fire smoke issues, any type of flooding, groundwater seepage, or overland, give Premier Fire and Flood a call. And part of your disaster planning, include them in that process, because they have a remote trailer that is on call, ready to come to your community with heavy extraction, water, moisture mapping tools, mold prevention and treatments, everything like that. So as I mentioned, I was going to go over really quickly what we're building out in the HazardScape app. I'm going to flip over my account so I can demonstrate this mesh map. So really this is a groundbreaking technology for, not only Indigenous communities, but any small remote community. And you can check this out right now at app.hazardscape.com. There's no cost. If you are responsible for any type of emergency preparedness, climate adaptation, mapping of community assets, this is going to be a tool that you can use to, and I just got to log out here for a sec because I got to get into a different account so I can show you the community asset mapping piece. But if you're if you're responsible for on reserve or off reserve First Nations, and you're responsible not only for cataloging the natural assets and the equipment assets, and you want a common operating picture for your community, I'm going to demonstrate this for you right now. If I can get it back into my, just give me a sec here. I'm going to get it back into my screen so you can see it, because I had to pull it out. Come on, Google. Hang on a second. Let me do something here. We're going to switch. Munyao is going to switch up your view so you can see this. No, let's go here. Munyao's computer skills on this one. Let's go add, stop, share screen. Here we go. There we go. All right. So I'm going to try and show you this. A little bit's on my phone. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. But if you are responsible for emergency management in your community, what I'm doing right now is, this is my phone. It's got a Google Map type of feature on it. If you look on our mesh map right now, that blue dot right there, the HazardScape field unit, is my phone. And wherever my phone goes, that blue dot goes. So if you've got a team in a small remote community, and this is going to work off-grid or off-grid, sorry, on-grid or off-grid, you don't need cell service. You're not going to need Wi-Fi. Wherever your phone goes, that blue dot is going to follow you on the map. Okay, pretty simple there. But the secret sauce of this is twofold. One, if you need to add a community asset, so let's just say you've got, a fire hall, and that's in a small, let's do this up here. Let's go to very remote Northwest Territories. Let's just pick a spot. So if you've got a fire hall in your community in a very remote spot, you place it on the community asset map. You can kind of give a status of it and make some notes. You add that asset to your list, and you go back to the map and you click on the assets, and now you're going to see that on your map. Now, here's the great thing about it is, if I want to drop a marker and say we've got a staged, fire engine, okay, and we're going to put that beside, so I'm going to put this on the map, and maybe you'll see it flash up on here, I don't know. But as soon as I click on there, you can see that blue dot, that fire truck just showed up on this map. So I'm going to drop another marker. I'll say that we've got some equipment. We've got a mobile, water tank. You put that mobile water tank on the map, and if you watch again my phone, this is kind of like magic. I'm going to click it by the fire truck. The tank is there. it's now on the phone instantaneously. So what we're building here is a common operating picture for small and remote communities that need the ability to map their assets, work with others, and link in with other communities, and have an area where all of you can view your assets in real time. So if a First Nation, Metis, or Inuit community wanted to show where they've got a fire truck and a mobile water tank, it's on the map. They can share this map in real time, and then all of the first responders have it on their phone. Right? So if you're an incident commander and you want to know where a neighboring community has just placed a mobile water tank, they'll put it on their map. It pops on your phone, your plans, your operations. Everyone can see it in real time. This is now available off-grid and on-grid, and it's Canadian made, it's Canadian technology, it's Canadian hosted. So that is just a really quick demo of what we're developing to support disaster and emergency preparedness, risk reduction, and supporting the common operating picture for small communities. So if you've got a communication site and you want to set up an off-grid mesh node, you could put mesh node 1. Maybe it's a water sensor that you want to manage your own. You add that on to the map. Now you've got, you and all your partners have an understanding of where that mesh node is and what water levels that it's measuring. And that's community data. So that is not going to be connected to the cloud. It's not going to be connected to another database. This is all meant to be for your community. So that's what we're building out here and what we're demoing and doing presentations with small and remote communities. It's going to give them and empower them to get off the internet service providers, get off servers in the US, get off giant data centers that are being developed by foreign entities. This package is also going to give First Nations the ability to link into each other, view their assets during an emergency, and then detach. And then everything's private. But if you're a neighboring First Nation and you want to show them where your mobile water tanks are, where your trucks are stationed, your heavy equipment, whatever it is, you're going to be able to show that and share it real time. So by the end of this, if you've got 6 nations in the Yukon all wanting to share their assets to help each other in mutual aid, that will all be visible through your through hazardscape.com, and then your entire team will get that on their phone. So this is cutting edge technology. The other nice thing about it is we're building it so Indigenous communities can do this off grid very inexpensively. To set up a mesh network that's about 8 to 10 square kilometers is only going to be a few $1,000s for the hardware. And now you've got your own data sovereignty in action at the ground level, at the hardware level, and now at the software level. And it'll all fit in with your data governance needs. So you can go and start checking all of this out right now at hazardscape.com and follow along as we build out this technology for small and remote communities. And the other nice thing about this too is it's not GIS. So GIS maps what you already know and it maps your plan, but it doesn't give you the real-time response data. It doesn't give you the real-time asset tracking, and it certainly doesn't work off-grid on a sovereign communications network. And chances are it's information and your data in the cloud that is accessible by whomever. So again, my last plug, head over to app.hazardscape.com. Now it's just hazardscape.com. We've migrated, but that's our technology for small, remote Indigenous communities, and how they can collaborate together in real time, develop that common operating picture, whether it's sharing sacred traditional knowledge, response data, whatever it is. That is a real thing. All right, well, I'm going to end the live there. Thank you all. I will see you next week, and stay safe with all the fires. If you are headed out and you are in the west, I'll show you one more time what we're looking at in terms of the fire risk for the weekend. This is where we're at. It's only going to stay hot in the north and the east. We're going to get all that rain in central Alberta. We've got the heat warnings. We've got the air quality warnings already up here. We've got the rain warning here. And we've got the thunderstorm warning for today and severe thunderstorm watch. And again, as we head into the week, take a look at that Monday at 3 o'clock. Like, look at the temperatures in Yellowknife again and Ontario. Super El Nino is just pushing that Pacific air, like, off the Atlantic, off the Pacific. It's just all starting to kind of come together, and it's keeping in that high pressure system. So yeah, if you missed this full briefing, you can always get it on hazardscape.com in the Canadian SITREP report for Indigenous focused disaster management. You can watch the recording on our YouTube, or if you just started halfway through, you can head over there. But that is our briefing for today. Have a good weekend, and remember, know your hazardscape and stay prepared.